What if I told you that some of the most bizarre conspiracy theories about government mind control weren't theories at all? Imagine waking up in a hospital room with no memory of how you got there, only to later realize you were part of a classified government experiment without your consent. Sounds like the plot of a psychological thriller, right? But for many unsuspecting victims, this was their horrifying reality. For decades, whispers of government mind control programs were dismissed as paranoia, the ramblings of conspiracy theorists. Well, if you're the CIA in the 1950s, the answer was simple. You test on people, many of whom had no idea they were part of a government experiment. But in the 1970s, declassified documents blew the lid off one of the most disturbing projects in US history. The agency believed that the psychedelic drug could be used to manipulate thoughts, alter memories, and break a person's will. Sensory deprivation, hypnosis, and extreme psychological torture were all part of the playbook. Some subjects were locked in dark rooms for weeks, given high doses of electroshock therapy, or subjected to endless loops of recorded messages to reprogram their minds. Many were left permanently damaged, their identities shattered. Operatives slipped it into the drinks of unsuspecting citizens, including soldiers, mental patients, and even random people at bars. Some never recovered. Some died in chaos. Charles Manson, the CIA, and the secret history of the 60s. Journalist Tom O'Neill uncovers disturbing links between Manson and figures connected to In 1973, the CIA, realizing they were about to be exposed, destroyed most of the MKUltra files, and subscribed for more deep dives into the mysteries they don't want you to know about. Who knows what else is lurking beneath the surface? Stay curious, and stay aware. But a few documents survived. In the late 1970s, through Freedom of Information Act requests, journalists and investigators uncovered the terrifying truth. Hearings were held, people testified. The public was outraged, but, as is often the case, the outrage faded, and no one was truly held accountable. Manson spent time at a facility known to be linked to these experiments, and some suspect he was an unwitting test subject or an asset trained in psychological manipulation. But history has shown that once the government gets a taste of power, especially power over the human mind, it is hard to believe they'd just stop. It raises unsettling questions about what we don't know. If this was happening in the 1950s, what could they be capable of today? Could modern mind control techniques be more subtle, more advanced? Some believe that programs like MKUltra never truly ended, they just went deeper underground. Could the government's experiments have played a role in creating one of history's most infamous cult leaders? It sounds crazy, until you realize how deep the rabbit hole goes. And the worst part, the government barely acknowledged it. This wasn't a sci-fi movie or a dystopian novel, this was real life. And the deeper you dig, the darker it gets. After being secretly dosed with LSD by his own colleagues, Olson became increasingly paranoid and distressed. Days later, he mysteriously fell from a hotel window in New York City. His death was ruled a suicide until decades later, when new evidence suggested he might have been pushed. The CIA, of course, denied everything. MKUltra was a top-secret CIA program that ran from the early 1950s to at least 1973 to develop techniques for controlling and influencing the human mind. Why? The Cold War had the US in a state of paranoia. American officials feared that communist nations, particularly the Soviet Union and China, had developed advanced brainwashing techniques. The CIA wanted its own arsenal of psychological weapons, ones that could be used for espionage, interrogation, and even manipulation of foreign leaders. But how do you experiment with mind control? The methods were as disturbing as they were varied. LSD was one of their favorite tools. One of the most infamous victims was Frank Olson, a scientist working on the program. But LSD wasn't the only weapon in MKUltra's arsenal. And then there's the connection to Charles Manson. So, how did this all come to light? The big question is, did MKUltra really end? Officially, yes. The legacy of MKUltra serves as a chilling reminder of how far governments will go in the name of national security. One thing's for sure, the truth is always stranger than fiction. If you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to hit that like button.